right. Welcome to the experiment of converting WP plugins A to Z.com to ClassicPress. This is a 10-year-old plus WordPress website that has quite a lot of data in it. It's been around a while. I've used it a lot. It's not my main site at johnoverall.com. That one will come later, but we're going to convert this one first because this one is slated for redevelopment. And we're going to find out how it works. We're going to convert it from currently, let's drop into the back end and have a quick look. You can see it's a big giant mess. All plugins. Make sure, first off, create your dev site. However you create your dev sites, I've got my ways of doing it. After this intro piece, I'll cut in a piece of where I talk about how I create my dev site and how I make sure the URLs are up to date in it. So currently, what am I doing here? I run a lot of plugins. You can see the back end here is just full of stuff. Lots of stuff happening. And when we pop into my plugins, you can see the plugins here I have 46 plugins, 43 are active, 3 are inactive right now. The 3 inactive ones are probably going to be well, no, 2 of them will be kept. One of them will be turfed. My inactive plugins right now is WordFence. I've got that disconnected because it's in my dev area and dev environments. I don't worry too much about WordFence running, only in my live. And the Amazon Associate Link Builder, I got booted out of their program for not selling enough stuff. So people were not buying enough stuff in my Amazon affiliate, so they said, go away, come back when you have more people to buy stuff. Keep that in mind if you ever become an Amazon seller. If you don't sell enough stuff, they don't want you. Okay, so I want to make sure all 43 plugins work. Currently, the theme I am using for the website is the Enfold theme, and I'm going to be converting over to be using Elementor and a base Elementor theme. So this is a whole lot that's got to be done. So first off, what we have to do is we have to go through, set up, and make sure you've got all of your URLs correct. And what I do for that is after I've created my dev site, I do it the old-fashioned way. I use my control panel. And I copy files. I create a new PHP folder. I copy the PHP database, or not PHP database, the PHP MyAdmin. I copy the MySQL database. I copy all the files into a new subdirectory, which is the new URL, a sub-URL. And then what I do is I go back in and I set up and install the plugin Better Search and Replace. And if you've never used this, fantastic plugin for replacing and cleaning up URLs and other bits and pieces in your database. It's dangerous and deadly if you use it incorrectly, or even if you make a typo. Been there, done that. Made a typo once and oops, shouldn't have, ought to did that. So you can do that and it cleans it up. So the next chunk talks about how I used Better Search and Replace to go through and clean up a URL that's been around for 10 years. And I've switched it from www to non-www, started with HTTP, going to HTTPS. So you get a lot of mixed stuff in there and you want to clean up as much of it as you can. So anyway, we'll let that take its place. Okay, this is the basic setup in the background. I'm starting sort of midstream here a little bit, but one of the things you do when you're setting up a dev site is once you set up your dev site, you'll want to run the Better Search and Replace plugin to clean up tables. You'll notice right up in here that I've already run it checking for an HTTPS version of the old WP plugins URL, and there are still tables in there. This is something you'll want to do on a site that has been around for quite some time, is go run through this and run in various options for the URL, the www, the non-www, the HTTP, the HTTPS, and then switch it over to your new dev URL, whatever that is going to be, as you've set it up. gives you the option first to run a check to see if there's any tables before it writes them over as a dry run. And then once you've found a bunch, then you can run a good run through it. It takes a while, especially if you've got a massive database such as I've got here, 107 tables and a lot going on. So this is something you want to do. So we'll come back to this in a little bit after I've cleaned it up, and we're getting closer to the setup now of conversion to ClassicPress. That is the whole goal of what we're going to be doing here. And yep, now it's finished scanning. I found another 615 cells that need replaced from the www URL. So we'll clean those up and replace those. Uncheck it, let it run, and we'll check back in with this when it is complete. Okay, so I've cleaned that up there. Now what we need to do is we need to run a scan for the plain version of the domain. And we'll run that scan now and let it run and check back in after that is complete. Okay, so we ran the extra one here looking for the HTTP version of the domain. Now look here, we found 2,224 cells. That's a lot of cells with that URL in it. And this is the reasons why you want to run this through a couple of different versions of this domain. Is you want to get them all cleaned up and you want to get your domain fully utilized properly in its thing. This is what happens to a site since this site started almost actually 10 years ago. This site was started, and so it's had 10 years of accumulation of miscellaneous things, upgrades, various changes, updates, you know, the cheater's way of HTTPS and then the proper way of HTTPS, and then some things were caught, some weren't. It's just, this is what happens over time. So if you're revamping a site, take it as an advantage to clean everything up dramatically. So I'm going to run this check again, or not this check, but we're going to run this through and now repair all of these cells, and then we'll run some scans, show you how clean each one is. All right, we'll take it at that, and we'll be back to you in a few. Okay, that one's all done now. So what we're going to do is we're going to double back here, and we're going to run the check on the HTTP version. This is a double check on it. Make sure we got it cleaned up. We'll let that one run through, and back in a minute. Okay, so this is the double check through of the HTTPS of the non-WW, nice and clean now. We're going to go through again and do the www version of it, run that check again, and make sure everything is nice and clean. Okay, we can see on this one here that it is nice and clean. So we're going to go back to the HTTP version and double check that. Okay, so we found that the WW version of the HTTP is good, and one last check for the plain WW or plain HTTP version. Make sure that's clean, and we'll run that check now. Okay, so back in. What do we do next? Well, the first thing we got to do is we need to install the plugin for converting to ClassicPress. This is where we're going to go. So we go to Add New Plugin. Now, I'm pretty sure it's not in the WordPress repository. Oops. Let's see. Is it in? How about that? Oops, CLASSIC. Need an A in there. ClassicPress. All right. There is not the plugin we want in here. What we get is a whole bunch of plugins that are tagged with ClassicPress to be compatible with it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to ClassicPress.net. When you get there, you'll want to go to Download ClassicPress. Actually, start top here. Migrate your WordPress website. Takes you here where you can download the release of the GitHub plugin, the plugin. Go in here, download the switch to ClassicPress.net zip, download it to your local site, download it. I've already downloaded it once, so download it again. Then what you need to do What you need to do once you downloaded it, go back to your Add New Plugins, go into Upload Plugin, click on Browse, go find where you downloaded it. I downloaded to a ClassicPress directory, and then we've got switch to ClassicPress.net. And install it now. Unpacking, installing, activate it. Now the plugin's active. Now before we do anything, go anywhere, let's take a look at the front of my website. Let's see how it is. You know, this is in the dev environment, making sure all the pages are working, links, you know, bits and pieces. Watch us live, you know, the usual stuff. Just make sure everything is all set up. Okay. So all of this is set, right? That's working. So now that we've installed this plugin, we can come down here to the ClassicPress. I imagine it's going to be under Tools. Let's hold on a second. Okay, so it is under Tools, switch to ClassicPress. Click on this. I'm going to bring it up. Some newer developers are running WordPress 5.2. So the plugin supports WordPress 4.9 to 5.2.2. And I am currently, just to give everyone a look at it, because I forgot to make mention of that, this site here has been updated and everything was going. So I am running 5.2.2 along with a whole bunch of recent plugins. ClassicPress supports the... Okay, so once we've got this up and you're ready to switch to ClassicPress, you activate it. And it tells you, runs you through a couple things, tells you what plugin supports, what PHP version you're using. It supports communicating with ClassicPress over SSL, doing that fine. No conflicting files were found. And it's a final warning that your WordPress core files will be overwritten. And it says modified core files have been detected. All right, so, why do I have modified core files? I can't think of why I have modified core files. That's interesting. No, let me check. Oh, I have no idea what that is, and I'm not going to overly worry about it. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and switch the site to ClassicPress. Let it run. Let's see what we get. Downloading, migrating, unpacking, upgrading, boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, hey, it's all here. All right. Let's see what we got. Welcome to ClassicPress. Credits, freedoms, privacy. Let's see what we got on our new dashboard. Well, everything seems to be there and working. Let's see how the front end works. Ooh, what do you know? Everything seems to be working. All the plugins seem to be there. Everything that's activated seems to be working. Well, what do you know? Oh, plugins installed, not add new. Everything looks to be working. What was that under add new? Look at that. Jetpack is not compatible with ClassicPress. Woohoo! All right, get excited about that. Yoast, Toast, duplicate posts. Yeah, so all the basic ones, everything looks pretty good. So all in all, the conversion process is pretty nice and simple. So now I'm going to go through here and I'm going to add in Elementor into the site. Elementor, we'll add in the basics for it. Install and activate it. Problems. Yep, we'll come back to making pages with that later. We need to go in and add the pro version of Elementor, which I pay for. I'll be back to you in a moment. Okay, so Elementor installed and activated. Even a pro version, not a problem. We'll just set it up to be able to use with multiple areas of the site. Okay, so we're about to make a mess of this pretty looking site because we're going to add in the Elementor theme for this system. And this theme is the one from JazzWeb Pty Ltd, who has been a very great sponsor of my show. So make sure you go check them out. And there's links in my show notes to this theme, but we'll bring that up in. Okay, so we're ready to add the themes in here. So we've got Elementor installed and activated. I'm going to go add new, upload a theme. We'll browse in, and we're going to be using the Hello Theme Master. Install that. And now we need the child version of the theme. Upload theme and the child version. Okay, so return to the themes page, and we're going to go with the Jello theme or J theme Jello child. Activate it, and woof, all done. Now we can go look at the mess that this has become. Doo-doo, look at that. God, that's a big mess. Wow. We got some work to do here. Just a little bit. That's all right. We're going to be changing the layout, adjusting everything up, cleaning up everything in here in the site. But it is now a ClassicPress theme or ClassicPress CMS system. So WP Plugins A to Z.com, while still doing WordPress plugins, is going to run on ClassicPress. This is going to be entertaining as all. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. That has been the conversion from WordPress to ClassicPress for a website that is 8+ years old and lots of plugins, lots of posts. Everything stayed contained. Everything worked. All the plugins continue to work. None of them give me any errors or broken problems. So far, so good. This is going to be things I will try to record as I go with this and see what little things I might have missed that might crop up. But thank you very much for your time.